room. So we're going to start back in 1920. Talk about the three events that kind of kick-started the downfall of the Reformatory. In 1920, Prohibition was passed into law. It is pretty much illegal for a young man to even touch a drop of alcohol. Alcohol is typically your young man's first-time offense. He was being sent to us to be rehabilitated. We received a large influx of inmates due to Prohibition. Then 9 years later, in 1929, the stock market crashes and the Great Depression hits. Crime is at an all-time high. We are receiving a large influx of inmates due to the Great Depression. But what we are finding out is, once these inmates get here, they realize they have a bed. They have guaranteed food every single day. They get an education of at least the 8th grade. They get to learn a job skill while they are here. This is a whole lot better than what I've got going for me on the outside, where I have no job, no home, no family, and I am out on the streets cold, tired, and hungry. So guess what? I got a parole date coming up, and I've got a chance to get out of here. Absolutely not. I will do whatever it takes to break that parole. I'll kill my cellmate, punch a guard, start a little uprising. I want to stay here in prison. So not only did we have that large number coming in, we had an even larger number that just wasn't going anywhere. The average stay here was only supposed to be 18 months. And then 1 year later in 1930, the largest prison fire in U.S. history breaks out at the penitentiary in Columbus. In that fire, 322 men lost their lives. At the time, Columbus was still under a skeleton key system, meaning they had to go to each and every individual cell just to unlock them. So, of course, they did not get to everybody. Well, after that fire, since they pretty much had an entire cell block that had burned to the ground, they had to start shipping inmates to other state-run institutions. We've got a pretty big building here in Mansfield, so of course we're chosen as one of the facilities to receive inmates. But what we had to remember was what we held here at the Reformatory was young, first-time offenders between the ages of 15 and 30. These guys down in Columbus, maximum security inmates, triple homicide, arson, the whole 9 yards. We did not want them coming in here, mixing in with our reform boys and ruining everything we worked so hard to achieve, especially close to an 85% success rate. And even if we do bring in maximum security inmates to the Reformatory into our general population, we are right back to square one where we were right after the Civil War, mixing first. And just like the floor below us, the purpose of this room once again changed every decade. Part of the classroom, laundry. So at the end of our 94-year history, this was used as kind of the dormitory rec room for trustee inmates. Just a few things before we go up to the guard tower. First and foremost, please be super careful going up and down these stairs. They are steep, they are spiral, they are small. If I had $1 for every time I fell down that staircase, I would have $6. Sometimes going up is not too bad, but going down is sometimes a whole other story. For everybody's safety, when we get up to the tower, please do not lean over the railing. And this is probably the most important part. This is where I have a 0 cell phone policy.
It's cool down here.
Did you get a picture of the cells?
Yeah, I get it.
Huh?
Film,
I
yeah.
want pictures.
Yeah, we can take pictures when we're back. Yeah. Where is the tower? We're the first to climb up the steps.
Corner, at the end of the range, you're going to see this very tall scaffolding. That scaffolding is original to the Reformatory. That was actually used to wash the windows and paint the walls. Windows were washed daily here at the Reformatory, and they said it took about 2 years to get completely around the west cell block and back to this location. They said as soon as they got back to this location, it was time to start all over again.
Looks very confinement. Come here.
It's cold here.
Favorite.
Watch your steps, Ben.
I like how it smells.
I think we're gonna go see Fred.
Watch there, Pa. Watch there.
Yeah.
So this is the basement. Wow. No, it's just all there.
Here's done, we're gonna go back to the right.
Smells.
Oh, where's the outside? Neat. We can escape the prison right now if you want.
Down here, Bob. Down here. It needs a lot of work.
All right, so this is the sub-basement here at the Reformatory. This was the location of the hole, as they called it. So the solitary confinement that we have today was not in the original plans for the Reformatory because we thought we're dealing with young first-time offenders. We can kind of somewhat trust these guys. But once 1896 hits, we start taking on inmates. We realize that we can't trust these guys as much as we thought we could. And there needed to be some sort of further form of punishment while in prison here at the Reformatory. So the quick answer to that problem was the hole. In this room right over here, in the corner over to the right where I am standing, there used to be an enclosed wall. So say another inmate and I, we were caught fighting out on the east cell block. The guards would bring us to the location right above my head where this wood kind of thing is. There would be a steel lid. They would lift up that steel lid, they would lower a ladder down into the hole. Once it reached this point, the hole went an additional 14 feet deep. Once both inmates were lowered into the hole using the ladder, the guard would lift the ladder up, put the steel lid back over top of us. We were down there until they wanted to get us out. We got 2 buckets a day, one for food and one for bathroom, and as you could see, if 2 inmates were inside of this hole, you only had enough room to be standing up back to back or chest to chest. One day a flash flood had came through Mansfield, the sub-basement flooded, and the hole caved in. Now there is an unconfirmed legend that there were 2 inmates inside of that hole when it flooded and caved in. So after that, the state of Ohio does what the state of Ohio does best. They filled it in and destroyed all the records of it being in the basement. And they built a new solitary confinement right above our heads. 64 cells altogether, 32 on one tier, 32 on another. The first 5 cells in solitary are what we call sensory deprivation cells. Those were added in the 1970s when we were becoming that maximum security prison. They have giant steel doors over top of them, and once that steel door shuts, no light and no sound can get in. You are sitting in darkness like you guys seen up in the attic. The rest of the cells in solitary look just like regular prison cells. Now, food in solitary confinement on days 1 and 2, you were given a slice of bread, a bowl of broth, and a small cup of water. And on day 3, to make it sound all good and fancy, they said, we're going to serve you a complete meal. But that complete meal was known as loaf. Loaf was all of the cafeteria leftovers from the previous day, put into a blender, poured into a pan, and then baked. And you were given a few slices of that. A lot of men skipped their loaf and waited for their bread, broth, and water. I probably would have too. Up until 1955, we practiced what was called the 8 and 8 punishment. So for 8 hours a day in a semicircular cage, they would actually chain you to a wall with your arms above your head. For another 8 hours, they chained you to the floor to sleep. And this could alternate between the wall and the floor. 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours until, quote, you got your mind right. And there was no benchmark that an inmate had got his mind right. You were totally at the mercy of the guards, and this process could go on for days at a time. And solitary confinement was also always kept at 90 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, because when you are that hot, hungry, dehydrated, you're not going to give the guards too much trouble. And the cherry on top of it all in solitary was, it was considered dead time. It did not count towards your original sentence. We have on record a man spending 300 days upstairs in solitary. We do not believe that to be consecutive, but ultimately at the end of this man's prison sentence, say he had to serve 5 years for arson. At the end of 5 years, he had to serve a 6th year, just for all the time he spent in solitary. But around that 1955 mark, the 8 and 8 and dead time was considered cruel and unusual punishment. Go figure, and they were no longer practiced. Do you guys have any questions about solitary? All right.